Okay, so we are back with our 2 days of live coverage of the ACA Conference here in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. And up next, we have a great guest, someone I've been really looking forward to speaking with, Mark Happe, who is the CCO of MAI Capital Management. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Chuck.
Okay.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. So Mark and I have already had about 5 or 6 conversations off camera, so we're trying to pick the one we're really going to deliver to the audience here. And I think we might do a little bit of a hodgepodge. We started talking about tuck or no tuck, which is kind of a recurring topic here on goRIA, which is when you're thinking about going RIA, you can build your own, right? Or you can tuck into an existing one.
Or you can do both.
Or you could do both.
That's right.
Why don't we start with that? How's both?
So both would be you build it and then you tuck it. Okay, if you think of it that way. And also depending on how the firm that you ultimately tuck in with has you structured, is that you very well may be in a position of continuing to build your business while it's tucked into a larger firm.
Okay.
Some firms from a business model perspective say that no, you need to follow this particular order of things, and others say you do that, but you can also continue to build your business as you did prior to tucking in with us.
Okay, very good. So let's go a little bit deeper on that. I know we were talking about culture.
Yes.
Culture is sometimes a challenge to put your finger on. It's not as quantifiable as a P&L, trailing 12, what does your book look like, but what is culture? So when you are at MAI and you're thinking about who's a fit for you guys, because it's got to be a fit both ways. It's like dating, right? It's no good if it's a fit only one directional. It's got to be a fit both ways. What are you looking for culturally for an advisor or an advisor team looking to plug in at MAI?
Yes, so, and Rick Blumencar, he says it all the time and lives it, more importantly. You care for your client, you care for your colleague, you care for your community. Okay. So it goes from that 3 legs of the sort of
the
how
triple
the
C.
culture is, a triple C. Exactly.
I love a good alliteration.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So regarding culture from a fit perspective, I agree. So one of the things I just got done with a panel on M&A due diligence for RIAs, and from a compliance perspective, what we think is important is that you cannot just be underwriting for revenue and growth. You need to be underwriting for revenue growth and what the client's culture is of the organization. Mm-hmm. And how that manifests itself, I'll give you an example. There's something called phantom compliance. And some firms, what phantom compliance...
Exactly. That sounds even scarier than regular compliance.
It sounds like Marvel, doesn't it? Like Marvel Comics or something.
It's like the worst superhero ever.
Exactly. And even more boring than Ant-Man, I think. But maybe I'll... no, I won't. So phantom compliance is a scenario where you have all the books and records and the compliance manuals and all the policies in place, but the company doesn't follow them. So that you have the check the box, which is not the way to do underwriting for pricing if indeed that you have an organization that has phantom compliance, because as we were talking about before, one of the things that from an M&A perspective is that from more broadly industry perspective, you have either a tuck-in, right? What I call an asset purchase generally, from the seller's perspective, or you have an equity. And so why that's important is that at the end of the day, even if you are being tucked into an organization, how you were handling things in the past may be treated differently as to how things will be handled on a going forward basis.
Sure.
Example, maybe there are different ways of calculating performance and wanting to be certain that we're in alignment. I think it really comes down to risk appetite from a compliance perspective.
Yeah.
And that's done by having compliance, quite candidly, at the table at the beginning, not at the end of the conversation of due diligence. And Rick is very big on doing the first cultural screen, so to speak, the 3 C's with the alliteration. But as we get into the underlying potential transaction, we're also involved in significant meet and greet activities with executive leadership of the entity, where there's reverse due diligence that's provided by the tuck-in, if that's what it'll be, or if it's an equity, there's also significant reverse due diligence that's done. Yet we have to be sort of dancing in the right way. Otherwise, we're going to step on each other's toes, and it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, well, I think that makes a ton of sense. So, as we're coming up on time, maybe some final thoughts on where you're seeing. We talked a little bit about consolidation. Maybe we can end on that because it is related to what we're talking about here.
Oh, it sure is. So, there's been a lot of press about the number of deals that have happened. I think 322 or something like that in 2025. DeVoe is sort of the industry benchmark that many use, including ACA. What's not so clear is that there's been a reduction in the number of sellers, and that becomes less clear because maybe folks are not wanting to sell, or what also is less clear is the number of buyers. And statistically, at the end of the day, that can be measured by, I think in 2025, DeVoe said there were 8% of buyers who were first-time buyers.
Okay, yep, 8% first-time buyers.
First-time buyers.
Yep.
Compare that with 2019, and it was close to 20.
Right.
And so that's a significant shift and a surprise, I think, to many. Why is it happening? Well, I think I used the word compression before, and you and I were just chatting. Yeah. I think there's a compression that's going on, both on the seller side and on the buyer side. Probably the compression on the seller side is less measurable than the one on the buyer side. Right. But I think that has to do with the fact that there's an increasing scope and scale of who the buyers are, and standardization. And then lastly, I think it also has to do with PE money, financing that's going on. And they're focusing in on the high quality, basically buyers, and putting money towards those entities in order to ensure success.
Yeah, so we are actually at time, but I want to just continue for half a moment more.
Sure.
Which is the following, because you said something that was interesting to me, and it's kind of what we're thinking. So our shop has made a public commitment that we're not going to go and sell ourselves to PE. We've decided to go internal succession. I wonder if that's part of a trend. Are we seeing more potential sellers like us, and we've decided not to sell, looking inwardly? In other words, we're looking to do our succession internally. Is that bringing the numbers of sellers down, do you think?
That's fascinating. I haven't heard that said before.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we said, we did a polling of the audience in this panel I was just on, and it was said something like, it was pretty evenly split. 30, for your firms, who doing M&A basically for this year. It was 30% were sellers, 20% were buyers, and
30-20, that's unusual.
And 50% said no.
Right.
And I commented on that, and I said, you probably want to think about that some more. If you're thinking that you're not in play, or you may not be in play for acquisition, it's worth thinking about.
Right. Okay. Well, right. I think we're going to put a pin in it there. That's almost like a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
Next time we cross paths at a conference, we'll continue on from there.
I'd love it.
Mark,
nice
thanks very much.
A
real pleasure.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So that is actually our last segment for this particular conference. So Mark, you're closing us off, and I can't imagine a better person to do that with.
Thank you.
So that's it for goRIA at ACA. Next up is going to be, what is next up? The American College, the Horizons Conference down in Orlando. I will see you then, and thanks for joining us. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Man, thanks.